Welcome back to another episode of the Shared Practices Podcast. We have part 2 this week with Tom, our fake name real doc, and Matt's shaking his head. He doesn't like that saying, but I'm just going to start using it all the time now. So we're going to jump right into the interview pretty quick here because Matt and I have a longer outro planned for the second part of this interview. Matt, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just think that phrase is terrible, and you need to erase it from your vocab. And my promise to listeners, you'll never hear me say that.
All right, guys. Well, let's jump right in. Here's our fake name Tom, real doc. Alrighty. Welcome back to another episode. We got our mystery doc here. Tom is his fake name, and his voice has been a lot deeper probably. And we're here talking about this guy's practice in a competitive area. If you haven't listened to the first episode, go back and listen to part 1. And for me, this is a lot of poking and prodding and trying to figure out really what is the situation. And kind of what we've uncovered is that Tom bought this practice from a older dentist who's slowing down, and he has like this older patient base where there's a lot of work to do, and he's been diagnosing a lot over the last 6 months and really ramping up the practice. He bought it like a $1.1 million practice, and he's got it up to like a $1.6 million practice. And what he's starting to notice, which is what I started to notice, which what most people will start to notice, is that diagnosis off of your existing patient base begins to dry up. And so that's really, I think, the most pressing issue that we haven't discussed yet. So that's going to be a lot of part 2. But what we ended on part 1 was he has this reappointment rate thing because his patient base is small. And so he's minimal new patient flow in his competitive area. And so one of the things that's really important is reappointing patients so that you're keeping the ones you got and able to grow. He wants to grow to double hygiene. Right now he's running 1 hygienist per day of the week. And so by doing that, reappointing all your patients so that you have less openings in the schedule is really, really important. And he's been talking to his office manager about the importance of reappointing and has not wanted to talk to his hygienist about it. So let's carry on this conversation with the hygienist because this has got me really excited. This is really the first area you've shown that I can really impact you. You're such a great diagnoser and you've done such a good job. This is the first area I get to coach you. Everything else is just consulting. It's just me looking at the practice, that's boring. That's like, but this is the area that you have a team member who means a lot to the practice, triples their production. And if I just give you the study, so the study shows that the reappointment rate in the hygiene chair is immensely higher than the reappointment rate at the front desk. So if we want that reappointment rate to happen, it has got to happen in hygiene.
Okay.
So what was your reappointment rate? Do you remember? Like, I can look it up, but do you remember what it was when you first popped on the software?
Probably like 40%, 50%.
Oh, really?
Like pretty low.
Wow. And then you're doing it just at checkout now?
I haven't necessarily changed what I'm asking for. I just raised it as an issue, but I haven't suggested changing it to hygiene or having. I just mean like what's going on here. I'm office manager, and then she tells me all this stuff like, oh, is this? She knows them all so well. She's like, oh, that person, like they're always on jobs they can't schedule in advance, and so I'm trying to figure out like how hard can I be about like no, like I don't care what they say as their excuse. Like I need you to get something on this schedule because it's like overruling her experience of knowing these patients, and I'm trying to figure out how firm to be with like my relationship about that with my office manager.
Okay. So have you had a team discussion about the reappointment rate?
And no, we have not.
So the hygienist has no idea that there's a reappointment rate issue?
No, because I didn't know it was an issue until like 2 weeks ago.
But somehow you're in the 80s now. That's actually fairly impressive.
Oh, well, I guess I had them working on it all week long. So that's nice. I had people making calls this week. So let's see where I haven't looked at it. Are you on the dashboard? Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the dashboard, and I'm looking at some fairly high reappointment rates. I'm seeing in the 80s.
Okay.
I think your hygienist is actually making these appointments without. I mean, are they making appointments in the room? They must be.
No.
None?
I think my OM is pretty good at asking when they're checking out. Oh, I see.
Okay.
There it is. Oh, there was the other stat I was concerned by that's saying like only 50% of my patients have a recall visit on the schedule. I think that was the one I was getting confused with.
Yeah, I think you were getting confused. So recall current percentage is 36%. But you've seen 65% of your patients in the last 6 months I mean, are you seeing a lot of emergencies?
I would say moderate amount of emergencies. Yeah.
So let's just say about half. That sounds about accurate. Let's just say half of your patients are overdue for a cleaning. I think that's accurate.
So does that sound like crazy bad, or is that? I mean, I don't have a total perception on these numbers.
Yeah. So that is, let's call you a C. So in my practice, when we walked in, we had about like 60-ish% of our patients were up to date on their cleaning, and raising that number is really, really hard because that's like a lot of prophies, like you're looking at like 400 prophies. Like, where are you going to put 400 prophies on your schedule? So that's like an actively, we call patients every 30 to 60 days when they're not overdue to get them in. So like to raise that 70% is kind of the max. So I would say you have like a couple hundred patients that will realistically come in if you worked on it. But the bigger thing is getting them scheduled before they leave, so that, because it's really hard to hunt patients down. Like 60% of our calls, we leave messages.
Yeah.
And so you don't get a lot of headway. And like we don't convert a large percentage of the ones that pick up either. It's the wrong time. We annoyed them at so having that appointment set is extremely important. So this is the statistic I would throw out there. And so the most important thing, anytime you're trying to do anything in the practice, if you're going to remember anything from this interview, it's this. Start with why. And that's like a book by Simon Sinek or whatever. But it's like a book about one concept. And it's the concept of always beginning with the reason before the request. Yeah. So like if I go to them and I say, let's have a team meeting on Monday, and we'll say, hey guys, because we're in an area with a lot of dentists, it's hard for us to get new patients. And especially with a new dentist here, it's really important that we keep the patients that we have. If you said that, do you think your team would be on board for that?
They're mostly on board, but I get the classic, I don't have time for that anytime they say anything to my hygienist.
Right now we haven't said anything. We have just said, do you want patients to leave our practice or not?
Okay.
Like for me, when I walked into my practice, all of my hygienists, well, I had 2 at the time, they were really freaked out about patients leaving. Like that's a big concern because they like these people. They know them. Like they don't want them to go somewhere else. So if we start with that reason and we get them to like nod and agree to that reason, then whatever we say after that, they've kind of already inherently agreed to.
Okay. I definitely don't have that finesse, so I'll have to try that out.
So finesse, you know what I mean though? Like, so you're asking these things for these reasons that they probably agree to. Like, so let's use, this is a great example, but and I'll send you the recording afterwards so you don't have to like jot down everything ferociously. But it's just that like, if we get them on board with why we're doing something, whatever we're asking them to do is going to get a lot more buy-in. So if we start with that reason and then we say, if they don't make their next appointment, there's a 10% chance that they're going to come back on time. That's a stat. That's not me making that up. So a patient that leaves without their next appointment, a 10% chance that they come back on time for their next appointment. And then your objection would be, so it's very important to me that our patients get taken care of and they come back on time for their cleaning. So we don't want too much time to pass. So it's really important that we make that next appointment. And studies show that it's the most effective when made in the hygiene chair. Because once they get to the front, they just want to leave. But when they're sitting in the chair, they think like, if you get it before the exam, like cleaning's done, the doctor hasn't come in for the exam, there's a wait for the doctor. So this is a good time to make your next appointment. Like that, that is the, that typically is the best way to do it. I mean, when they get you for an exam, isn't there like a couple minute break before you go?
Yeah, I'm sure she's been waiting for me plenty of times.
Yeah, so say, just let the patient know that I'm going to go grab the doctor for an exam. She'll go ping you, and then she'll go back to the chair, and she's waiting for you. So that's, while we wait, let's go ahead and set up your next appointment so you're not overdue for your cleaning. Yeah. Like that's a very straightforward. And if you ever see her making that next appointment, do not interrupt her. Wait for her to finish making that appointment. Because if you get in the middle of it, she's going to get pissed off and not want to do it anymore. So you wait for her to finish the appointment, and then you go in there. So you won't. Good. I mean, like, so her resistance of I don't have time is like, you're waiting for me anyway. If that patient goes to the front, they're not going to make the appointment. And if we don't make this appointment, then there's a 10% chance they're going to come back on time. So let's make that appointment. and don't say it like that, but that's like that's the kind of the flow that you go through.
That's
And
like
that's
a nice way to say it.
it's a skill that's important. Like, so when I walked into my practice, like my team and I joke about it, and a couple of my team members listen to the show. So like, they'll kind of laugh at this, but I walked in and, I was very adamant on, we're not going to change everything. We're going to keep everything the same. The whole time I changed everything, and it's just that like, and now they kind of joke about it, but the reality is that, you have to be able to, keep your core values in line, and that might not always be doing the same thing. So you and the seller both wanted to keep patients. So you were doing the same thing as a seller. You're trying to keep patients. You're just doing it differently. So it's not really a change.
That's a good way to point out the time, because there's downtime when they're waiting for me anyway. So
yeah, they're not cutting into the cleaning.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, don't ever cut into the hygienist cleaning. Yeah, but so I guess the thing is you have to challenge that hygienist a little bit. So this is, I gave you a cop out, right? I gave you a way to challenge her, but she's going to complain about it eventually. And I think that's how you grow the relationship between you and that hygienist. You go through friction together, and then you get over it.
She is making progress at this point, because I haven't had any pushback. But yeah, she is definitely making progress, because she just used to get very flustered, and now she seems to be running her rooms better by herself. But this is definitely the next aspect I need to work on. So
okay, so it's good that you continue to challenge her, because I think it's really easy to fall into that trap of like, my employees are happy with me, so I'm not going to do anything to change that because it's really nice. But what that really means is my employees are not being challenged and they're not growing. I was at a period in my practice where around the 6-month mark, it's always around the 6-month mark that like, that's when you start feeling like, oh crap, I need to change things, because it's not as easy as it was, because my honeymoon is ending. And so you're kind of at that point now where it's not as easy as it was because your honeymoon is ending. I think you actually still have some time left. I was looking at your stuff. You're still doing okay. You're not that close to it ending, but eventually it'll end. And you will, you're going to have to, at some point, kind of have the leadership skills required to get your team to move in the direction you need them to move.
Okay.
Before we get back to the episode, I wanted to take a minute and thank Practice by Numbers. Without their help and allowing us to set up the shared practices dashboard, a lot of what we do on Practice Underwater wouldn't be possible. I want to take a minute and highlight a clip from the episode that we did with Rohit, where we highlighted some of the metrics that really matter most.
You cannot look at them just by themselves. You have to look at a few other things together with it. But the most important number any practice right off the bat should look at is patient acceptance. And the difference between treatment acceptance and patient acceptance is treatment acceptance is the amount of dollars that we're accepting. For example, if you presented $100,000 worth of treatment, how much of that has been accepted, meaning scheduled or completed? Okay, so in this particular example, if 100,000 was presented, 55,000 was accepted, or either scheduled or completed. But the second part is 72%, which is the patient acceptance. What this means is that if you presented $100,000 worth of treatment to 100 patients, meaning $1,000 per patient, 72 of those patients scheduled some aspect of that treatment. Looking at patient acceptance is the absolute best way to go.
I hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you guys are interested in trying out Practice by Numbers and looking at your practice through the Shared Practices dashboard, and there are many other dashboards, you can go to practicebynumbers.com and set up a free trial. So let's talk about the sustainability. What is your marketing budget? Like, I know you don't have one.
I haven't done a particular marketing budget yet. I've been working on Google presence as that was my first priority, and I want to try and work on Yelp obviously too. Those are things that were suggested by my previous group, or when I was working for the DSO, that's what they worked on. And then asking for internal referrals is all those efficient ways. We have a care to share program that I've implemented, and I had been told in the past that marketing doesn't work, but I have doubts about that, and I definitely feel like I'm in a position that I want to start, definitely putting some money into something. So I redesigned the website, and I'm doing some social media stuff with the company. And I want to maybe look at AdWords, but it doesn't necessarily feel super cohesive yet. But I'm just kind of getting into that as far as my knowledge
Okay.
It's something I'm weak on still, and it's like earlier today I was Googling Google AdWords. Like I'm trying to figure out the battle plan there.
Sure. So let's just say I gave you the silver bullet that's going to get you new patients. And, how many thousands of dollars a month are you willing to spend on marketing?
Whatever it takes.
So you don't have it. So if I told you it's 10 grand a month.
I would spend it, yeah.
And you'd get 60 new patients a month.
Done in a heartbeat.
Wow.
In a heartbeat. 60 new patients.
I love you. That is awesome. Nobody says that. And that's exactly how I feel. And it's hard to find somebody willing to do that. Good for you. Please explain your reasoning to the audience.
Well, I have a history of, like, I know, as working as an associate, if I had 20 new patients a month, like, I know I could put together a decent month that way. And so if I had 60 new patients a month, like, I can't even imagine not being able to put together a great month with 60 new patients a month. And so then that builds days of hygiene pretty quickly. I forget the short math on how quickly you'll build a day of hygiene out of 60 new patients a month, but that would, that'd be more new patients than I've ever had in my career, like twice as many.
Wow.
So I know I could do it. So it's for 10 grand at that point, it's like, whatever. It's like, I'm going to make it back in the first week.
Dude. I love your brain, man. It's like, you're so not like a dentist. You like love the dentistry. And so like somebody would think that you think like a dentist. I mean, most dentists would fall out of their chair if I told them 10 grand a month and you're like, done. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I've had some good mentorship, I had some good coaching in the past from my previous boss. So,
good for you.
When you've seen it happen. And if you believe in yourself, you can go for it.
Let me explain to you a concept that's going to help you with the 10 grand. You don't seem like you need help with the 10 grand a month, but I think for somebody in our audience that isn't understanding why I'm so on board with 10 grand a month for him is this. So in marketing, the rule is whoever can pay the most for the customer wins. So let me explain that concept. If I'm fast food and I'm McDonald's and my average revenue for a customer is $6.80, and I'm Burger King and my average revenue for a customer is $4. So who can pay more for my fast food business? McDonald's. So you as a dentist are, if we were to do a gradient, you're on the higher end of what you can pay for a new patient because you offer a lot of services, you diagnose well, and you convert well. So a patient in your practice, like right now, you're at over $1,000 per patient in your practice, which when we talk, like I talk to Rohit about this all the time. And I'm like, what's the tippity top of this? And he says $1,000 per year per patient is kind of like what we think is like, you're kind of maxing it out. And this year you're going to be at about $1,600 per patient. So the thing that you have to really embrace the mindset of is I can spend an ungodly amount of money for patients because I can, because I'm McDonald's in my area. So if we worked right next door to each other, patient walks into my practice, they're worth like $700. And I'm actually fairly proud of that. 700, I'm like, damn, I'm doing a good job. Like 500, I think is like, you're doing decent. 7 is like, I don't do any specialty services. So for me, it's all charisma and Crown and Bridge. And, like you do everything. You seem to convert well. And so I want you to like, be really proud of that and embrace the fact that like, F yeah, I can pay whatever I want to get people in the door because I'm the best, and like, just know that in your area, I don't think anybody else in your area can convert can you do a full fixed hybrid case in your practice?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you do a molar endo?
Yeah, all the time.
What about third molars?
Yeah.
Like ortho?
I do Invisalign, but I find that it's hard to get like the outcomes I want out of aligners in an efficient way. Like it's not immediate gratification enough for me, but yeah, I do it when I see the straightforward cases.
Okay. Is it setting up the case properly to succeed that's your problem? Or is it just aligners as a whole that you don't really have?
I'm not a big fan of it. Like you're relying on the patient to be compliant and like, they don't. There was a lot of clear crack in this practice, and then I've been mopping up all of the cases that haven't been finishing. And like, I'm not it's good enough. Like if I'm doing something for somebody, I want it to be satisfying for me as well as what they think they want out of it, which is like sometimes putting my own expectations on it. But
Yeah.
I just don't, like if I do a set of veneers or I do other parts of dentistry, like I could fix the problem and I can kind of have more control over the outcome than on the liners where I'm relying on another company to do a lot of it or the patient to be compliant over a whole year of time. And I can't just redo it as quickly.
And you have the mechanisms in your practice to convert larger cases. I mean,
yeah.
So like you can pay for people. And your two options are to not pay and not be aggressive for people. And that doesn't seem like the route you want to go on. Or you can be super aggressive and build yourself something to sustain. And it seems like with the level of fixed costs that you have, that's almost your only option. Because you want to be.
That was kind of my gut feeling. Like I have another sort of manager consultant person, and I told her like, look, we need to just get going on this marketing budget, like whatever it takes type mindset. And I think she put up some of the stutter that you hear about, but that feels like my gut feeling, but I hadn't really had it as well explained as you just put together for me, George.
So don't tell me their name, but explain to me this manager consultant person.
She's a friend, family member who just happened to be in the industry, but she doesn't like.
She was like a front office or something.
She's been like a COO of like a DSO.
Okay, so like that's like a legit position.
Yeah, she's got pretty good knowledge, but she's like semi-retired, and me and a couple other friends, like we sort of brought her out because she wanted to help us out, not because she needed the money, but just because she wants. It was very, very fortunate. It's very helpful, but she does a lot of auditing for me, which is awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I think in the group practice space, like it's really hard to. It's all about your overhead, and the idea of just tossing a bunch of money at something and not knowing what's going to happen. But in your case, man, like you can do whatever you want. And so like one marketing piece I have for you is this is what we just rolled out. That's my practice. And so this is a 16-page magazine that's all about my practice. So like there's me holding, and that's like an implant retained denture. And like the cost of that versus the cost of a postcard are so close. It's like a 30% increase from the cost of a postcard to the cost of a 16-page magazine, all about your services, all about your specialty services, making you different. How many Google reviews do you have?
136.
Is that the most in the area?
I think it is in my immediate area right now, but that was definitely well helped out with for sure.
Yeah, of course.
That was my first thing that I was really working on. It was going to be Google and Yelp, get that going. Yelp was a lot hard with my patient demographics.
Title of my magazine, Google's top rated dentist in my area.
Yeah, 250.
I got 260 something.
Killing it.
So, nice. It's just like you have those reviews, you have the services, you have everything you need to just light the thing on fire. And so you just need to get the right marketing that's going to highlight
for you so far. Like
oh my gosh. The people that have turned me on to this magazine thing, it's 3 times, people are reporting 3 times the success of postcard direct mail. Because the thing is with direct mail, like half the cost is postage. Yeah, so half of your expense with direct mail is sending the thing out. So why not print something really nice? And the thing is with a magazine, you don't have to stack as many pieces of paper on for I've done way too much homework on this magazine thing. But it's just a whole nother world of direct mail for a dentist like yourself is perfect. And you can totally tighter it. Yeah, it stands out. It's going to get you the type of patient that you can convert, a high quality patient looking for, like there's nowhere on here is a new patient special or coupon.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that because in your case, that's the least valuable patient to you. The most valuable patient to you, the way you increase your revenue per patient is by getting patients who want your services. And you have a lot of services. So I would 100% just get yourself something really high quality marketing and like that's predictable. Direct mail doesn't fail and just do it. you're going to make your money
Wow.
back like 7 to 8 times.
I feel like
probably.
my mind's expanding because like I just had years of the company I was trying to work with in the past. Like, oh, can we do some marketing? Can we do some marketing? Like, oh, the direct mail, it never works, never works, never works, never works.
Yeah,
Like,
probably because they're
ever.
doing postcards. The
Yeah.
postcard with a coupon for a DSO is different, right? Like you have to think of yourself differently. You are not, the cheap date dentist. You're not a DSO. Like, there's stuff that DSOs do well, and then there's stuff that you just got to acknowledge. Like, I'm not them, and if I do it differently, it just makes more sense for me to not do it that way. So spending a lot of money on marketing that's going to get you high value patients that want comprehensive care is like, I had this patient walk into my practice and he was like, yep, I want Invisalign and 2 implants. And I'm like, cool, I can do those for you. Done. Like, it was the most simple comp exam because he came in, he understood our services, he looked at our reviews, like this is the place he wanted to go for complex treatment.
You know what you wanted.
Yeah. Like that's who you are. That's your patient. And the more you do this, the more you market in that fashion, the more the community just gets to know your office. Like you're called a name that's not a location, or I'm not going to say the name of your practice, but it's something that indicates that the type of dentistry you do, not the location or name of the doctor. So use that to your advantage and really become a brand in your community for somebody that can offer that high value treatment, because that's what you want to do anyway.
Yeah, that sort of ties into like the vision thing, and I'm still kind of trying to clarify the vision there because like I see an opportunity where I might be positioned to be able to do things not for budget fees, but maybe a little bit more affordable than getting bounced around all the specialists. But I'm like not sure if that's something I should target or if I should just try and market and maintain like the fees that were established in the office already.
So let's talk about that. So your idea, what I'm hearing from you is that you want to lower your fees
I'm
to
not
do
saying I
more.
want to. It's just the previous doctor used to give out willy-nilly discounts whenever he felt like it, and I hate not having a system because I feel like I've been genuine to different people that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, do I need to like embrace that and just like give a discounted fee to everybody, or do I just drive my reputation and keep the insurance contracted fee and the practices UCR fee with like maybe an in-house benefit plan that I do have going already? So it's just something I'm unclear on still.
So my sellers did that too. It's insurance fraud. If you're discounting the in-network fee, but they didn't do that, but they did discounts to patients. So they started a discount plan, and then we inherited that. So that's like your way of anytime a patient wants a discount, we have the discount plan. It's built for discounts. It's a system, and that's just the way it is. I think, what I thought you were saying was like, I want to compete with specialists in my area.
I'm saying that too. Like
Okay.
Kind of. Well, I don't know if I want to compete with specialists because like I'm not trying to compete with specialists. I'm just trying to draw patients to my own care as a general dentist. But
yeah,
like I still have a hard time. If I can do an implant, it's a lot of money you're asking for people, and you want to help them. So I'm like, maybe I should be able to help more people if I'm not having the incoming volume of patients that I need. So I don't know. I just need to think about it a bit more myself too.
I think I want you to try having the adequate volume of patients and like investing in marketing heavily so that you have the number of patients that you need. And then if you still want to do the discounts after that, to do the discounts. But I think like in my mind, when there's a procedure I really want to do, like right now I'm new into placing implants. I went to Pathways, I learned, and I came back and I'm starting to place. And so like I'm dropping discounts on implants to start putting scalpel to tissue, because I need to start doing that and get comfortable with it. It's a priority of mine. But then once I've gotten to the point where like, okay, it's not exciting for me anymore. If the patient does it or not, I don't care. Then, my desired discount is probably going to go away. So for you, I think you love doing the complex cases, but if my advice to you would be, let's get you to the point where you're doing as much complex case dentistry as you want, and then see if you still want a discount. If you do, then discount. But if you don't, then don't. But like if I'm a patient, I think you need to think about it from the other perspective. So I'm a patient, I have a problem, and it's a complex problem. My chief concerns are usually ability to finance treatment. And my other most annoying thing is I don't want to go to this practice to have to go to the specialist and then have to come back and have to go bouncing around between 3 or 4 places to get my work done. So do you guys finance treatment for patients?
Yes.
Okay. So like a $50,000 case. You only have care credit?
Care credit right now. I was like wondering about like compassionate finance or some of the other ones, but I haven't changed. I didn't change that system from what I inherited at this point.
Reach out to Proceed Finance.
Mm-hmm.
So they're for bigger cases. They're smaller fees than Care Credit, and they accept people with worse credit. So I would go Proceed before I go to an in-house solution. Proceed, they're great. It's like they're just Care Credit has such a hold on the market that they can charge whatever they want.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so Proceed comes in at a much better deal for everybody, you, the patient, and so I would contact Proceed Finance and I would get set up with them because especially with the size of the cases that you do, that'll help you get more of them converted. Because I mean they can do up to 8 years.
Oh wow.
And I'm doing an impromptu commercial right now. I'm not sponsored by them at all. They have no idea that I have this podcast. But yeah, so it's 8 years up to I think it's $60,000 or something like that. So I mean, it's just like it's for you. It's a no brainer. Just sign up.
Okay.
It doesn't cost you anything. Anyway, so if I'm one of those patients, you have everything I'm looking for. There is no better place for me to be than in your practice. Like if I go to the periodontist, they're going to send me to a GP to finish up the case. Like there's no better place to be than a general dentist who's competent in specialty work, because then I can get it all done. I can get my cleanings done. I can get all my work done, all in the same place. And if you're going to finance the treatment, like why would I not come to you? That's the way I want you to start thinking about it. Like you don't have to drop your fees to be competitive. You are competitive. You are offering everything to that they want. So like that's a mindset shift that like, look, like I have the most revenue per patient in my area. I'm the most attractive office. I have the best reviews. Like this is where people need to be. I think like that, like I want you to own that.
Well, I kind of like feel that confidence because like that's why I'm not worried by my situation particularly. But at the same time, like I'm not sure how to get there quickest and most efficiently with the marketing and like make it as like I want to get there and I want to see if I can get there before I plunge off that cliff for a minute.
Yeah, that's the goal.
I'm trying to see avoid falling off that cliff.
You have to be aggressive. So like the thing that your break-even point is so high that, and I'm not saying it's your fault, it's just the reality of your area and whatever, your break-even point is high for a solo. So you have to be aggressive. And like, but if you can grow this practice even more, like let's think the other way. If we can invest super aggressively in marketing, consistently do 140, 150, you could probably fit that all in the same house, but your break-even point is probably not going to move a whole lot more than maybe an extra hygienist and the marketing expense. You already have 2 front desk. You already have maybe 1 more assistant, but I mean, you're pretty much there.
Yeah.
So you need to start pushing past that break-even, especially with your ability to do dentistry. So like I would so push you the other way and just be aggressive. And like, don't expect it to work the first second it goes out. But like for me, this magazine was really something that it took a while to find something that works for what I was looking for. And, I was like $100,000 into other stuff that wasn't working before I found it, so like if I can shortcut that for you, that'd be fantastic.
Well, you shortcut a lot of other stuff, George. So
yeah, right. Like I think for me, I was relentless about trying to find something that worked. And, like it's just that's the missing piece. But I also want you to really leave with the understanding that I can pay whatever I want to get somebody to walk into the door. Like your ROI is so insane that like just because of who you are as a dentist, like all these marketing companies claim to have these ROIs, but the reality is they can't control what the dentist is going to diagnose and treat, but like you just have to know as a dentist, I can pay a lot. So if I were you, I would invest in high value marketing that's going to get patients in the door with complex needs. And like, how do you filter for that? I don't like the Facebook lead gen marketing stuff. It just doesn't, I haven't found one that works yet, and so they just charge a high management fee to tell you they're doing something. And I haven't really seen it. But getting a patient that picks you like they pick any dentist, but for reasons that are not cost, that's your way of getting patients that want quality care, which is what you provide. So that's really the way I would go.
Good stuff.
So now let's wrap up with, so I went on a marketing tangent, which I don't intend on doing very often. But in your case, I think it just is so fitting because I look at you and like, dude, I'm sorry.
that's sort of like the main thing I'm wondering about right now in my head too. So I appreciate the insight. But
Yeah, no, that's your biggest problem. Like retention and new patient flow, like number 1, 2. So new patient flow, retention, 1, 2 on your list. Like, and then distant third, maybe some leader. I mean, not distant third, but leadership stuff is important. But like you got the bare bones in there. Like, you do a lot of same day dentistry, which how are you pulling in that much same day dentistry?
just anytime that's, if I see it, I offer it, we fit it in.
In hygiene?
So I pull it off of hygiene exams. Yeah. And then, there's a lot of ways to make the narrative. Like, you know what, I could fit you in now, say we come back another time, and I don't push anything, but I just offer,
Yeah.
and set up in a situation to be able to do it. And a lot of patients don't want to come back from jobs again. We do have, I guess, an ability to put together treatment plans quick enough.
Dude, you got the bare bones. Like, I want you to, like, I think there's a value in keeping things simple. Like, and I'm like the last person. Go ahead.
So obviously emergency is like, what do you do? Like, anybody who walks in the door, I'm going to do their emergency endo, emergency extraction, emergency bone graft, like every time. So that helps a lot.
Do you do immediate implants?
Yeah, but not necessarily posterior, but if it's the right thing for the patient's clinical situation, anterior, or if there's good bone, then sure. But it's not that often.
Cool. Yeah. Anyway, that's just me nerding out.
It's really fun. That's where you have fun.
Yeah, that was my favorite thing to do at Pathways was the immediates. Anyway, so, I think going back to like your situation, like you have, like, my goodness, you do so many things well. Like, I don't want to change everything about your practice because, like, who cares if the phone isn't answered with the right tone of voice, or like, simplify it.
Yeah.
New patient flow, retention, leadership. That's it.
One other thing I wonder about, like, I always have this personal debate on how hard to put the gas pedal down. Like, things are going good. I'm cruising. I'm paying myself. Like, I'm happy. Like, and then I'm like, oh, I haven't been like super motivated on working other parts of the business for a little while. Okay, now I got to put the gas pedal down. And it's not a sprint. I guess it's a marathon of like business ownership. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I should be like putting, to get myself in this position, I put my everything, full effort, locked on like a laser for years and years and years. And now I'm kind of enjoying a bit, but also working on it. And so like I sometimes have a bit of an internal debate on like how much extra hours after work type stuff I should be putting in. And it sounds like you do so much research on all this.
I'm a freak. Like, don't be like me. Like, I don't do this because it's like work. I do it because I love it. Like for you love clinical dentistry. I love studying, what is the difference in the reappointment rate where it's made in the hygiene room or the front desk. Like, that's not interesting to other people, so like, you like other stuff. Like, I would implore you to not work on the practice as much. Like, you're doing everything well. Like, how much work is it to sign up for the marketing company that's going to get you like great results? That's like not that much work. That's a very simple thing to do. Yeah, like cut a check. So what I would implore you to do is cut a check and talk to your staff about reappointment rate and explore areas of leadership. Like, that's not a lot of work. Like, what I actually want you to do is stop doing a lot of work, because you're probably focusing on areas that aren't going to really lead to a lot of impact for you. Like, you're doing a lot of things really well. And just cut the check now instead of 2 months from now. Like, that's the thing. You know what I mean? So that's what I would tell you to do. I would tell you to keep it simple. And like, really just like, you're doing so many things really well. And I appreciate you getting on the call and giving us a great, stuff. But like, this is me telling you that 80-20 rule. A lot of what I do past those 3 things is the 20%. So don't invest 80% of your effort into things that are not going to make a big impact. Just enjoy your life, have fun, cut a check to a marketing company who's going to make you a lot of money, and have your hygienist reappoint. Like, you're in an exciting situation.
Monday step of that chat. So it's
it's simple, just like, don't stress, try to enjoy yourself, and maybe try to pick up. I don't know if you have enough hobbies, but like, if you find yourself bored, then pick up a couple hobbies. Yeah, you got hobbies. So like, there's a part of this that I don't talk about enough of sustainability. Like, how do I make myself feel like I can do this for the rest of my life or career, or however long you want to do this for? it's making it enjoyable. And so like Matt always talks about rewards, and he kind of jokes like he had this guy who paid off his student loans like that day that they were recording the episode, and the guy's like, yeah, I wasn't going to do anything. I was just going to go home, maybe crack open a beer. And he's like, what? Dude, you just paid off your student loans. Like, do something, you know? And so like I would tell you the same thing. Like, dude, you've built this incredible thing that like do you know how hard it is for me to pull same day treatment out of hygiene? Like that is why?
It just takes practice.
That just hasn't worked for me. Like I can do it for fillings, but anything more than fillings, and you know, I like to adopt the lazy dentist mentality. So for me to have the conversation about the patient, like, hey, yeah, we could do this today. It's like, but I don't know if I can do it today. I got to check the schedule before I walk in. Like, I don't really want to do it today. You know, so like for me, there's all this crap in front of that, but like you just do it. And you guys present treatment plans quickly. That's been like a big objective of mine, is to get to the point where we're doing that fast.
Well, we all have our own limiting beliefs. And like, obviously I have some areas that I'm working on, and that's obviously an area that you're working on. But it's just recognizing them and working on them. Like
so be proud of yours.
Biggest game changers for me.
Yeah, like, you know, I think you need to, like, if there's nothing else to take from this call, just I'm a badass. No. Like, dude, take that away from this call. See, you don't even want to admit it. Like, you are. Dude, $1,600 per patient. Nobody else does that. I've never seen it. Ever. And I've looked at a lot of these things, and I've never seen somebody diagnose $400,000 a month off of one hygienist worth of patients.
There was a lot of need in the practice. Like, but he was not.
Stop discounting yourself, man. He was not diagnosing $400,000 a month
when it was during the transition. So it was interesting.
Yeah, like you gotta just acknowledge, like, pat yourself on the back and do something cool this weekend, because you're awesome and you've done a great job.
But I mean, I wanted to say again, like, you guys have been really definitely a part of the success and getting me into the situation. And I really appreciate everything that you, Matt, and Richard do in the podcast from day one. So you guys have a real impact on a lot of us out there, and thank you a lot.
Cool, man. This has been a pleasure. And, you know, for anybody listening, like, this is really so like, I look at you as a really refined dentist. Like, when people say buy practices out of school, like we couldn't be more opposite.
Go to residency. That is like my biggest pet peeve. Like,
yeah.
BA residencies are mind blowing. I wouldn't like, the whole reason I was able to do what I did, struggling through the competitive market, is that from day one, I could take out teeth, place bone grafts, do implants. And so when you sit around twiddling your thumbs, the patient walks in the door, you're ready to rock and roll whatever they need. Like, getting the right residency is a game changer in my opinion.
So like, you guys, like, I'm not like huge on residencies, but like I'm starting to get huge on residencies because I didn't do one, and it holds me back every day, you know? And so like, it's a long career. And so the ability to have a skill set like that is very, like, Matt did a residency and it shows.
Like, I did 50 implants with a neurosurgeon holding my hand on my shoulder, but I was still placing it. You're doing 20 molar endos in the endodontist, like treatment plan with prosthodontist. Like, you literally cannot buy that in CE. It would be like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they're not all good residencies, but if you got a chance to do a good residency, it's a game changer. Like, from day one, I felt super good about doing whatever clinical dentistry I wanted to do, and then it was just a matter of working on case presentation and business acumen, and so that's what I'm still working on, obviously. But
yeah, you know, like,
I think residencies are helpful.
So for me, like, I did the thing that's like considered sexy, right? I bought the practice out of school, the bigger office, and I got the associate and all that stuff. But like,
that's amazing too.
But look, I have a different career arc. Like, I'm probably not going to be like, my career is not going to be clinical for the majority of it. You know, that's just not me. And so, like, that's why for me, and even still, I kind of like, part of me wishes I did a residency, but part of me doesn't, because I would be barely out of residency, you know? So like, but like, that's not most people. So like, ask yourself, am I going to be somebody who's going to be doing dentistry on people for the majority of my career? If yes, then acquiring that skill set is really valuable. And just because I did it, or Derek Williams did it, or like these people did it and did well, like, doesn't mean that we're not being held back by the way that we went about our career, you know? And I think,
I guess it's just what you are.
Yeah. Like, for me, I'm totally like, it totally holds me back. Yeah. Like, just not being able to do complex care on people is like, it's frustrating, you know? And I'm actively, like, since meeting Matt, I think the biggest thing he's added to my life is the clinical risk taking that like I think is required to really.
I definitely
like you.
respond to some of what he says in that regard for sure.
What do you mean by respond to?
Like I agree with him. Like one of my favorite things about being a general dentist and taking some of these risks is that I can, if I make the mistake myself, I can always fix it.
Yeah.
And learning, also it's like about setting standards. Like I'm going to put my heart and soul to everything I do, and not everyone will. So like if it doesn't go great, I'll make it right. And so I feel comfortable taking those risks and growing and expanding. And then you end up getting to this point where you have more control. So you end up having more control of your outcomes because you're doing it start to finish. And that ties into my love of doing it and the satisfaction I get from doing the dentistry. But I definitely agree that if you're into the dentistry, you definitely want to.
Like for me, when I subscribed to, when Matt and I started working together, like I coached him and he coached me. Like we have that kind of relationship. And like his staff is like way doing a lot more now, and he delegates everything to the point where his office manager came up to him and was like, "Do you even do anything anymore?" And I'm like, "Yes, that's his inner George," But then my staff, like they were like, "Man, you're pretty clinically risk taking lately," and in my head, I'm thinking like, "That's Matt," And like if you are somebody out there who is unlike this doc here, Tom, like you have to work with Matt. He's just so good at like getting you out of the mindset shift that's required to take those risks and grow. Like my schedule now is filled with stuff that I wasn't doing before. That's meaningful production that I'm doing well and I'm happy with. And it's the flavor of clinical dentistry. And that's from Matt. Like that's not from anybody else. So I couldn't be a bigger fan of who he is as a dentist, and his special sauce. Like we talk about our special sauces. His special sauce is his ability to take calculated risks and be okay with it and like just have great outcomes. And like that's total. And he helps people code. Like that's so awesome.
Yeah.
And like you have that. Like this is somebody that has that skill set. Like this is what's possible. So good for you. You got it in residency. Not everybody does, but like, I didn't. And it's just like it's so valuable because then you can pay the most for the customer. Like that's the one theme for this episode. This guy can pay whatever if your cost of acquisition for a patient was $1,600, everybody would think you're nuts, and you would still win. Like after a year, you've paid for them. Like to me, it just like you can pay whatever you want. Just get the right number of patients. If you're not getting the right number of patients, spend more. Like that concept, and like to an extent, but like.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll get there. Like marketing will not get as expensive as the lack of patience will affect you.
Mm.
You got the skill set.
Thanks.
All right. So do you have anything else for me?
Oh, that was great. Appreciate it.
Me too. I think this was cool. It wasn't our typical episode. Most of the guys that came on hired me afterwards, and I don't want to work with you because I don't think you need me. You got so many good things going for you that, a Facebook message everyone here and then with some advice is more than enough, I think, for you. So you're killing it, man.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that interview. We have a lot to talk about. Really a lot. Really, really a fun interview for me to do. And I think Matt and I really enjoyed discussing it sort of off air and now on air. So Matt, what were some of your big takeaways?
I think first when your ability to like put stats to back up the changes someone needs to make in an office, like when you talk specifically about reappointment rate and how that is statistically higher with the hygienist than it is at the front, like you said, because they're at the front, their appointment's over, they just want to they've mentally checked out, they're out of the chair, it's time to worry about all the other things going on in their life. So introducing that to his hygienist by saying that with the stat will really drive that point home more, and it tells that person about why they're asking her to reappoint in the room. So I think that was brilliant.
And that goes back to sort of what we talked about in the outro of part one, where really it's that idea that, my leadership style is always, beginning with the reason behind whatever we're doing before we even talk about whatever it is. And so we kind of went through that example of if you told the hygienist you don't want any patients to leave the practice, do you think she'd have a problem with that? It's no. Okay, then let's make that happen. And here's the how. But I think you have to start with that why. And for reappointment rate, I think, that stat of both the higher reappointment rate in the hygiene room and also, the idea that 10% of patients that walk out without their next appointment come back on time. Almost nobody does. And so hygienists really care about their patients coming back on time. So it's a great way for them to sort of get on board with that idea of reappointing.
Yeah, and that's a key point. Hygienists really care when patients leave. I think that's a universal thing. I know mine really worries about if someone left, it's like, why are they not reappointing? Like, that's a pain point for them because they know these people. They've probably been treating them for years. They're good friends at this point. So like hitting that pain point will really drive it home. They will leave the practice if we don't do this. Statistics show.
And I think a lot of what it is we coach clients and then our clients coach their teams. And so a lot of the techniques we use on a client, they need to use on their teams. And so it's that idea of getting somebody like, coaching, you're sort of influencing their mindset and their view of what it is you're trying to get them to do so that they do it sustainably for a long period of time. And you're trying to get the same thing from your hygienist. So if your hygienist just believes in her gut the importance and benefits of reappointing, then it's a lot easier to have like long-term change as opposed to just like, hey, 1 month you get a bonus if you reappoint X people, then they'll do it for a month, but then right next to the next month, it's not sustainable. And so I think that idea of really getting people to like internalize the reasons for things will allow you to have more sustainable results.
Yeah, for sure. And I like when you said don't interrupt her when she's in the midst of doing that hygiene appointment. Happens all the time. If I get buzzed to do the hygiene exam and she's either showing intraoral photos or reappointing the next one or talking about fluoride, I'm not entering that room. I am lurking behind a door until I hear that conversation's done and they're just, chit-chatting about whatever. That's when I walk in. If you task her with certain responsibilities and she's in the midst of doing them, let her do it and then walk in.
And then a lot of the patients don't reappoint for that reason of, well, I'll just, it's going to take too long. I just want to leave. And so if you do it while you're waiting for something, like the doctor to do the exam or something like that, then that just increases your reappointment rate even more.
Yeah. And I hear that feedback a lot from clients. Like, my hygienist doesn't have time to do all these things. And then, like you pointed out, well, doesn't she wait a couple minutes for you when she buzzes you for exam? Well, yeah. Well, then do it then. Like, that's when it needs to be done, when the cleaning's over and she's waiting for you to come in for the exam.
But in my practice, that's not even the way we do it. My hygienist always does a reappointment rate, then comes and gets me for the exam. But, I think it just goes back to you got to figure out what works in your office. Like, I don't care how you do it. I just care that you do it. And so for me, so long as I see that metric where I want it to be, then I'm not going to talk about it. And I think that's the importance of really metrics-based coaching is that, I don't care how it happens. It just has to happen.
And this is the key metric. Like, when you buy a practice and the first thing I would look at is this number. Like, this number needs to be where you want it to be, or at least on the path to where you want it to be, above 80, 90, wherever you want it to be for your office. This is the key number.
And the thing is, it's not like the number that you're going to change your life with next month, but it's a number that's going to make your practice sustainable 2 years from now.
Yeah, for sure. And going on with the staff thing, that you made a really good point. When your staff is happy with you, things are going pretty well, and then you don't want to rock that boat because things are well and everyone's getting along and when you want to be liked and all these things, and then you stop yourself from introducing a change is going to move your practice forward because you're worried about pushback. That is a dangerous mindset to be in as a new owner. When you're afraid to make a change because you're worried about how they're going to react to it, is how your office plateaus.
Big time. And I think we've both been in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a constant flux of that. But like, just talking with you and learning other things is just like noticing that, like noticing when I'm doing that and like trying to reel it back in and be like, all right, like what am I afraid of right now? Like what's going on in my head that's stopping me from presenting this like I know it needs to be presented. So, it's not something some people may ever master, but just like that internal like recognition is the important part.
And it's not like, for the rest of our careers, we're always going to be changing things. But I think for the first couple, there's a lot of change to be made. And you have to have a willingness to, I kind of joke around my hygienist now because they give me a hard time because it was like the first year I just introduced something new like every couple months. And then they make fun of me now, like, oh, you just keep telling us that that's it, and then keep adding one more thing.
You should never tell them that's it, George. It's always going to be something else. Don't talk about this. I'm going to do it for a couple of years. You're going to do that for your whole career. We all know.
Probably. But it should ease up. But I think that idea that you just don't want to upset people or you don't want to do what's best. I feel like you build great relationships with your staff so they can withstand the times that you tear them down. And, those moments that you have to do what's best for the practice, but maybe are not best for whatever relationship with whatever team member, those are the moments in which you have to be ready for. And that's where the goodwill you've built up with your team is really getting used in that time.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing that struck me a lot in this interview was his kind of aversion, kind of his false beliefs about marketing because of the way it was done as an associate job. And I think that's an important point. A lot of new owners will come in to their first practice and they've been an associate and they know the marketing strategies that worked at the old office, and they're just going to come into their new office as an owner and try to replicate that. And it might be a totally different area, totally different office. They're operating on past patterns that worked in a different office. Now they're in this whole different thing and they're not changing how they're doing it based on what they have.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to understand as a private practice, you very much attract a different type of patient than a corporate office. And a corporate office doesn't have the luxuries that you have as a private practice. You are the same person that's going to be there all the time. You usually have great reviews. You have all these things to your disposal. And so you're capable of doing a lot better with marketing than they can. They cannot scale the type of marketing that you can do, but you don't have to scale the type of marketing that you want to do because your marketing is very local. You can do very reputation-based marketing when they can't really do that because their practices don't always have the best reputation. And so they have to attract people in a way that they know will work, even if they're not getting a high quality new patient. And so I think, big mistake I see a lot is people at their associate position watching how they market. And marketing is not a one size fits all. You have to understand who are you, who is your patient, and what's the best strategy to make that happen as effectively, repeatably, and sustainably as possible.
And don't you feel like most of these owners are coming into ownership being in some sort of associate driven practice, group practice, and a lot of them are coming into solo doctor ownership. So it's a whole, like you said, whole different marketing. You're looking for a wholly different person than you were in that group practice model.
100%. And the thing is, you were in a model built to withstand you leaving. The practice that you're entering is not built to withstand you leaving. The types of patients that you attract are not ones that are going to tolerate associate turnover the same way the associate job that you came from did. So the entire demographic is totally different. You're going to walk into exams and not see nearly as much to do in private practice as you will in an associateship, is my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, my associate job, I saw way more going on than I'm seeing now.
Yeah, because your patients are healthier. They're long-term patients that care about their teeth. And that's a high-quality patient that you want, but it's not one that's going to come on a $59 new patient special. They're going to come in on a reputation-based marketing looking for the best dentist for them and their family.
Yeah, and I made this mistake. They did mailers in my associate job. They did really well with it, gotten 70, 80 new patients a month in a very saturated area in New York City. And then I brought mailers to my community up in the suburbs. Nothing. 5, 6 a month in the months I did mailers, because I was trying to replicate what I knew, and that wasn't the right thing for my area.
Yeah, I mean, I learned the same thing, right? We had the same coach, we got the same advice. We do postcard direct mail, and postcard direct mail in my area was a high affluent area, high income area. And very, very, I mean, I actually got the money back guarantee with dentalmarketing.net. Do you know how hard it is to get the money back guarantee with dentalmarketing.net? Your mailers have to suck to get
Did they actually pay out on that too?
Legit free mailing. Yeah.
Wow.
It was, and that the free mailing didn't give me any patients either. So
That was a wash.
Yeah, right. What did I really get? Yeah, so that's funny. But you find better techniques as you do this more. And I think one of our goals is to just not have you waste all your time and money. And I think one of my big things that I was trying to tell Tom was look, dude, you're McDonald's in your area. You can afford to pay the most for that patient, because when they walk into your practice, if that's the right patient, you are going to kill it. I mean, this guy's $1,600 a patient. That's his average. That's insane. I'm at half that. That guy's killing it. And so he can afford to pay whatever it takes to get people in his door.
Yeah, and I love that analogy. It's almost like you're squeezing the market because you are the biggest player. He's, in all likelihood, the biggest collector in his town and area. He has the capital. He is the best dentist there. He can squeeze the other ones out. He can really go after it. And that's kind of the mindset I take in my own area. I'm going to squeeze out my competition. I'm going to outspend them in the market. I'm going to spend in smarter ways than they are, and I'm gonna beat them.
Yeah, 100%. For me, we have over 250 plus Google reviews. And, now we're at the point where we're running this magazine that's killing it. And if anybody in my competition wants to do that, they can't afford to. Like, you can't afford to outspend me in marketing because you don't have the size practice I do. And I'm trying to just add gas to the fire. And so, yeah, I mean, like, if anybody else in my area wants to do what I'm doing, they can't. Or else they're not going to make money for a couple months, like they're literally not going to take home a paycheck. So that, I think that's putting yourself in that situation is a very big advantage that's sustainable, right? We're trying to build that sustainability, and that's how you have to do it.
For sure. And the other main point I had with what you talked about is you tried to get him to understand what a badass he is. I think he was on the path, but he kept deflecting. He's like, no, it's, excuse, this reason. This guy's a badass, and he needs to know it and own it.
Yeah, man. Like, his case acceptance for how much he diagnoses. I've never seen a solo diagnose 400,000 plus a month. Like, are you kidding me? That's insane.
Yeah, when you were like, can you do the fixed hybrids? Yes. Can you do molar endo? Yes. Like, you could have said anything dentistry. TMJ probably does it. Like Botox, sleep, guy probably does it all.
Yeah, he diagnoses and communicates. His case acceptance is so high. Yeah, obviously there's something to be explored there. I don't think you liked, so we talked about this off air. Matt did not like the comment I made that he doesn't need coaching. And I agree with him. We kind of talked about it off air because there are things that he does need, especially leadership. And eventually, as he starts adding gas to this fire, he's going to need, things are going to start breaking down. His systems are going to start breaking and he needs help. But I was more talking about, his case acceptance and his diagnosis really covers up a lot of other issues that he could potentially have in the practice.
Yeah. And I think like most of our relationship, they're looking to grow, even if they are doing well, like this dog Tom is. Like, they want to always be better. And to be better is to have someone in your corner looking at what's going on and can point to areas that you can get better in. And I think that's like that constant improvement cycle that I think is healthy, can turn unhealthy in some ways, but that's kind of our people. We want to be the best. We want to keep getting better, and having a coach is one way to really ensure that.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I like messing around in the interviews, so I like to have fun.
Yeah, you're a fun guy, George. I just spent the weekend at George's place, and I can attest in person. Very fun, funny, jovial.
Jovial. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, he's like, you're a fun-loving guy. Very easygoing.
Yeah, I guess Richard gave me a hard time because he tried making jokes in the intro outros and I just totally ignore them. And I was about to just totally ignore that one.
Yeah, I know you were. So no more of that. All right. I'm a funny person, George. You got to laugh at my jokes. Okay.
All right. I will. You got anything else for us, Matt?
Yeah. One last thing. What do you think? Do you think someone doing a residency is more apt to a solo office versus someone who's not, is more apt to a group practice model?
I'm going to floor everybody here. And as a new grad who bought a practice right out of school in my year and a half in or whatever, I don't regret not doing a residency, but I totally see the value in a residency.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it is. Because I think me and people like me made buying a practice out of school like the really sexy thing to do. But the reality is there's a lot of downsides. And like that sustainability piece of like being able to communicate and do like, and obviously not all residencies are created equal, but like in a year of your life, being able to add like $200,000 of CE to your skill set immediately to walk into ownership with. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. Like, I took implant pathways and that gave me the ability to do implants. Like I did implants in school, but I didn't feel super comfortable just walking into practice and placing. And now I do. And the amount of money it adds to my practice is so worth it. I mean, I paid off the course in like 2 months. It's pretty incredible. The course and the inventory and everything. So I think for sure. I see the value in, walking out with a diverse set of procedures.
That warms my heart, George. I feel so good hearing that. You never said that before. I got like tingles.
Did I really never say that? I think I've said things like that.
Never said that. Not in those words. That was great. Loved it hearing that. But no, it's like for me, like implants has been the biggest reason I've raised production from where my old owner was. Like if you had to boil it down to a clinical thing, it's bringing that in and getting to my skill set where I can do it like predictably and quickly. that's been the biggest production growth in my office.
Yeah, Matt and I have been working together now. I can't believe it's been 6 months, but we've been working together for 6 months, and I've definitely grown a lot clinically since working with Matt. It's crazy to really see the things that I do now versus the things I did then. It's pretty cool.
Proud of you, George.
Cool. Well, do you have anything else, Matt?
That's all.
Did you hear my shout out to you in the interview?
Yeah, man, that was nice. Again,
you
feel good.
I appreciate it.
A lot of positivity coming at you these days, and it's really well received on my end. I want to let you know that.
Well, I'll keep it up, Matt, and we'll see you guys next week on Practice Underwater. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to another episode of Practice Underwater. We'll see you guys next week.
If you're interested in one-on-one coaching with either Dr. George Hariri or Dr. Matt Garino, our contact emails are in the show notes.
And if you're interested in being on Practice Underwater as a guest, where we could look at your practice anonymously, you can go ahead and contact the email in the show notes and follow those directions to get on the show. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next week on Practice Underwater.